decided to move from PowerPoints to using these wonderful idiot cards to see my way through it. I'm an organizational psychologist, and I've spent the last 25 years, if you like, having leaders and the organization on the couch, as therapists do, I suppose, but also really putting leadership behavior under the microscope. And I have to admit, in our current crisis, I'm reminded very much of the last crisis, the great financial crisis of 2008, 2009. I think there's some lessons there about what we got right, what we didn't get right, which I want to talk a little bit about today. I'm Australian, so I have a funny accent, and I will attempt to speak a little slower, but I've spent most of my life based in Copenhagen and worked with global organizations, primarily taking leadership and using that to transform the way that organizations work. And that gets back to my sort of key message in my first PowerPoint slide of today, is that in essence my book and what I work with is this idea that how do we take organizations, how do we create the psychological safety in an organization in terms of then creating the foundation for greatness. And this applies just as much in this crisis, if not even more. But what I will talk about is that fundamentally creating that safety today is more difficult than you might think. And I know that the tenor of many of the presentations today is around optimism, and I am optimistic, but I'm going to use a quote from Shackleton, the famous Antarctic explorer, and say that we're going to need moral courage, because optimism by itself is probably not going to lead to the kinds of outcomes we're looking for. And it gets back to a slightly teasing idea. Is this recovery? Is this rehab? Or is it reboot? Well, recovery sounds nice, and I'm concerned about that recovery means back to how we used to do things. And I think in reality, this opportunity, and I don't like to use the word opportunity with COVID-19 because there's been so much pain and so much struggle and suffering, and continues. So when we say, let's grasp the opportunity, let's make the world better, I do that with a certain level of discomfort, I have to say, but nevertheless, I believe that we're going to have to do a little more than you might expect to be successful with a recovery. We're going to have some rehab here.